What if I told you that a judge, sitting up on the bench, gavel and all, might not actually be, well, judging? It sounds wild, but today we're diving into a really powerful legal argument that's all about this idea that a judge can wear two very different hats, and one of them completely changes the game. Let's get into it.
So let's just start with this question that seems simple on the surface, but trust me, the answers get complicated fast. Is a judge's role always to judge? I mean, we think of them as the ultimate decision makers, right? But what happens when the very law they're supposed to enforce ties their hands?
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get our heads around this two hats argument. Then, we'll focus on the one word that makes this whole thing tick: discretion. After that, we'll see how a court can actually start acting like an administrative body and why that matters so much. And finally, we're going to pull it all into the 21st century and see how this fight is playing out right now. Okay, let's kick things off by putting the right frame on this whole idea, because believe me, how you frame this argument is absolutely everything.
It is so important to get this straight from the get-go. This is not some fringe sovereign citizen type theory you see online. Nope. We're talking about standard, legitimate legal doctrine. This is about asking real questions about a court's jurisdiction and a judge's authority based on actual law.
So, with that cleared up, let's get to the heart of it. There's one single concept that powers this entire legal argument, and that concept is discretion. First up, what is a judicial act? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's when a judge has to use their judgment, weigh the evidence, interpret the law, and actually make a decision. That key word here, the magic word, is discretion. Now, on the complete flip side, you have a ministerial act. This is totally different. This is when an official is just following a set of instructions. The law says, do this, and they do it. No thought, no judgment, no wiggle room. It's like following a recipe, step by step. There's zero discretion involved. And here's a fantastic way to think about it. A referee in a football game, they're performing a judicial act. They have to make tough judgment calls in the moment based on the rules. But the scorekeeper up in the booth, they're performing a ministerial act. They don't decide the score. They just record the score that's already been made. No discretion whatsoever. And listen, this isn't some newfangled idea. We're talking way back in 1880. The Supreme Court itself said, look, just because a judge does something, that doesn't automatically make it a judicial act. They said plenty of a judge's duties are just ministerial, just like that scorekeeper. And 50 years after that, a court in Virginia made it even more crystal clear. When a judge is just mechanically, robotically enforcing a rule, they're not acting like a judge. They're acting like an administrative officer. They're literally wearing a different hat.
Okay, so this leads us to a really fascinating turning point in the argument. If a judge's actions can be non-judicial, what does that say about the court itself? This is where things can start to transform.
The logic flows in these 4 simple steps. First, a law gets passed that's super rigid, no gray areas. Second, a judge is told they have to enforce that rule, exactly as written. Third, because they have no choice, their act becomes ministerial. And fourth, this is the big one, the court itself starts to operate less like a court and more like a government agency. The famous legal scholar Casey Davis didn't mince words. He said in this situation, the judge is basically just a clerk for whatever agency is involved, and the court becomes nothing more than an extension of that agency. It's not an independent branch of government anymore, it's just an arm of the administration. So you might be thinking, okay, so what? What's the big deal if the court acts like an agency? Well, this is where it all comes together. It gives you the power to question power, and it's all about one of the most important concepts in law, jurisdiction. You see, it all comes down to a fundamental principle. Government agencies have very limited power. They can't just do whatever they want. Their authority is strictly defined by the laws that create them. They have to stay in their lane, and if they step out of it, courts are supposed to slap them back down. And this is the punchline. This is the whole point of the argument. If a court is just acting as an extension of an agency, then its power isn't the absolute inherent power of a court. Its power shrunk down to the tiny, limited jurisdiction that the agency was given by law. Its authority is no longer absolute. It's conditional. So this isn't just some dusty theory from an old law book. This is a live issue. It's a modern legal battlefield over who gets to have the final word. I mean, you can trace this debate back for almost 200 years, from a case in 1834
all the way to 2024 with the massive Supreme Court decision in Loper-Bright, which basically told courts to stop just nodding along with agencies and start thinking for themselves again.
And this quote really captures the mood right now. There's a real fear, even among judges themselves, that courts are at risk of becoming a simple rubber stamp for the government, losing their independence and their whole purpose as a check on power. Which leaves us with this final, massive question for our entire system of government. In an age of ever-expanding rules and regulations, who really gets the final say? Is it the independent mind of a judge or the cold hard text of the rulebook? That, right there, is the tension at the heart of a judge's two hats.